I'm Idiotac, and this is my review of RimWorld for PC. What is RimWorld? Well, it is a colony management simulator. The idea is that you have crash landed on a planet, you have to survive for as long as possible, research the technology required to build a spaceship, and get off the planet. Will that happen? No. Why will it not happen? Because this game will fucking kill you. Everything in this game wants to kill you. Everything. The weather will kill you, lightning will burn down your house, raiders will come and kill you, animals will go crazy and attack you for no reason, your own colonists will go insane and kill everyone while they're asleep. This game is brutally difficult and incredibly fun. It is one of the best games I've played this year, and if all you want to know is whether or not you should pick up this game, the answer is yes. Now let's get on to the review. Why is this game so good in my opinion? There's 3 reasons: depth, storytelling, and replay value. This game is so complex, it's wonderful, if you're willing to invest the time. It has damage on human beings to the degree where it'll tell you exactly where the person was hit in what organ, the damage that's been done to that organ, and the effect that that will now have on the person going forward. It's ridiculously complex. You can grow different kinds of food, you can trade, you can build with different types of materials, you can hunt, you can harvest various materials, you can build medical bays, research new technologies, build communications arrays. I mean, the thing is so ridiculous in terms of its complexity, but it makes the game so enjoyable because the replay value is huge because you're unlikely to experience everything in your first playthrough and you're going to have to play the game over and over again before you start to get bored. The second reason it's so good is storytelling. Now, the game is full of random events. The way it works is this. You start up by creating a scenario or using one of the pre-made scenarios. You can choose how many people there's going to be in your colony to start with, what kind of resources you'll have, what weapons you'll have, things like that. Next, you move on to the storyteller choice. This is a difficulty choice of sorts. Basically, the way it works is you pick between one of 3 storytellers. One of them will ramp up the difficulty slowly over time and increase the frequency and intensity of random events. Another one will give you them at reasonable intervals and give you enough time to recover in between, so that's sort of the easy storyteller. And then the other one will just throw random crap at you. You don't know whether it's going to be easy or hard. Then you pick between one of 5 difficulties. There's also an Iron Man mode. After you've done that, you pick where you're going to spawn on the map. Then you choose the people who are going to spawn on the map. You can randomize those people with dice rolls. They'll have various skills from tailoring to crafting to construction to shooting to melee to cooking to medicine. It goes on and on and on. They have backstories. They have personality traits that affect the way that they interact with other people and what they can and cannot do. Once you've decided all of that, you spawn on the planet and you start building your base. So that's how it works. From that point on, the random events that occur in the game will shape a story, an emergent story. And every time you play the game, you're going to have a completely different experience because of that system. It's wonderful. It can be brutal, you can die very unfairly at times, but I don't care because the stories that are told through gameplay are so compelling and enjoyable that it's a blast to play. It's a blast to experience what's going to happen. I had a group of people that went insane, killed each other. There was one man left who slowly became suicidal, shot his own dog and ate it. That's a cool story. Very depressing story. Most of the stories in RimWorld are kind of tragic and depressing, but still fun. You know, random people will join your colony. You'll meet people from other tribes. It's so good in terms of its storytelling. It's probably one of the best examples I can think of emergent storytelling in games. Next up is replay value. Because of the procedural generation, because of the mod support, because this game is still being actively developed, and I should point out that it's in early access. However, that doesn't actually really matter in this case because the game was developed for 3 years prior to going into early access, and it's for all intents and purposes a feature-complete experience. The replay value is huge. I've played so much of this game in the past 2 days. As soon as I'm done with this review, I'm going to play more, and if I didn't have to move on to other games for YouTube, I could play this game for hundreds, if not potentially thousands of hours. It has so much replay value. So, now I've finished gushing about the game, what's bad about it? Okay, so it's not finished, first of all, it's in early access. They're handling that quite well, but you can never tell with early access where things are going to go, so you should be slightly cautious in that regard. It has bugs. Sometimes game-breaking in the sense that you could survive if you reloaded and did something differently, but it will sometimes lead to people dying. For For example, I had an issue where people would refuse to eat cooked food and only ate raw meat, and I'm pretty sure that's not the way it's supposed to work, because they all died. One bug I had was everyone in my colony decided to just sit around and meditate all day, and I had to actually schedule work times for them, and pleasure times and sleep times, which you can do in the game, but by default you don't normally need to do that. A major issue is the complete lack of a tutorial system. Now, it does have some tooltips in the beginning of the game, but it's nowhere near sufficient. Now, I can forgive that to some degree because the game is in early access and you tend not to make your tutorial until your game is complete. So I do hope that when the game is actually finished, it has a robust tutorial system so that people don't have to rely on a wiki and spend 2 hours reading and watching some YouTube Let's Plays in order to actually enjoy the experience. Still, that's the way it is, so you do need to keep that in mind. It is one of those games. You are going to spend a significant amount of your time researching and learning. However, if you do that, you will get an incredibly deep, rich, and rewarding experience. Finally, the elephant in the room, and that is the presentation. This game looks virtually identical on a visual level to Prison Architect. Now, the reason for that is because the developer is a programmer, and he couldn't really create art assets. So, from what I understand, he sort of made a deal with the Prison Architect guys and they gave him some assets and he kind of ripped off the art style wholesale. And that's not a great thing because it leads to the game not having its own identity. When I show people this game, their first response is, oh, is that Prison Architect? Or is that a mod for Prison Architect? Is that in the same engine as Prison Architect? Now, you don't really want people to associate this game with Prison Architect because, quite frankly, they're very different experiences. The only similarities are the building system, the way you lay things out, and the visual style. Everything else is very, very different. So I do think it needs to branch off and get its own sense of an identity, and the art style and presentation would help it very much in that way. The user interface is also quite clunky, bare bones, very alpha. It's nowhere near as finished as it could be. They really need to pretty that thing up, add some proper drop-down menus. When you click on an icon, it will give you the option to build an item from various different materials, and it sort of renders wherever your mouse clicked on it. And the first time I used it, I didn't actually know that that menu was there, and so I tried to build everything out of steel. I didn't have any steel, and my guys just stood there and I didn't know what was going on. So they could improve the user interface in a number of ways. But it's fucking amazing, and I mean it. If you like any kind of management game, you will fucking love this game. Is it worth the money? Definitely. If you're a fan of this genre, it's a must buy. If you don't mind investing the time required to actually get good at the game and to learn its systems, then it's a must buy game. It's one of the best games I've played this year, and while it is in early access and the price point is $30 US, which is quite high, it's a wonderful game. It offers so much value for the price. I can't recommend it enough. The only people I think who should not pick up this game are obviously people who dislike management games and people who are not willing to invest the time watching YouTube tutorials, reading the wiki to get a good grasp of how to best do things. If you're not that kind of person, I strongly recommend that you avoid this title at least until it's finally released. Maybe then it will have a tutorial system. But overall, it's a brilliant game, and as soon as I'm done with this review, I am going to go back to playing it. I hope you found this video useful. If you did and you want to support this channel, you can like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. You will find a link in the description box below for that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.